Hello, hello world, and welcome to another episode of Americana. I'm Willie Montague.
And I'm Shakia Hinton.
Today, we're going straight to the heart of what's shaping America right now: power, accountability, culture, and the decisions being made that impact everyday people, because leadership isn't measured by headlines, it's measured by outcomes. And only here do we have the honest conversations about where America is and where it's headed next. You guys already know it's Monday, and this is Americana. All right, you guys, we're going to dive right into this. We're going to have an interesting topic, a conversation, however, today, because I already said, y'all, I'm not going to be arguing. But we're going to talk about something that is actually serious. And this is Alex Perty and the federal force protection, or is it overreach? So as we're going to talk about the case of Alex Perty, a registered nurse in Minneapolis who was shot and killed during a federal immigration enforcement encounter, and now the country is divided once more, especially after what happened with Renee Good. Officials say officers acted in response to a threat. Critics say the force was excessive, and the public deserves transparency, body cam footage, and real accountability. And so we're just going to dive right into it with this conversation. And I want this to be clear. When it comes to illegal immigration, and I mention all the time about illegal aliens, illegal immigration, I use one and the same. However, I would make it clear, I am all for us having legal immigration, but as I mentioned, I began last week, we need to make sure that we are not causing there to be such a mayhem in this way, in a political time where people are so emotionally tied up and it's causing so much hurt and pain. So we need to really have this conversation about what are we going to do with making sure that people are not seeing ICE just shooting people and then taking it to the cams, taking it to their phones, and allowing this whole thing just to become, blue versus red, black versus white, anything versus anything other than how do we safeguard the American people?
I think that's a great question, but I do want to note that we are seeing not just red and blue affiliated people who are enraged by his death. We are seeing everybody. So it's going across party lines, which I've been saying that for the longest time, right? But I think why it's gaining so much attention now is because truthfully, he's a white guy who has a credible job. He was a registered nurse, ICU nurse, and he was a legal permitted gun owner. So now it's not just because he was a leftist or he was out there protesting, it's because he's hitting other sectors of lives that typically don't bat an eye about this type of stuff.
Right.
So now the conversation is the Second Amendment, right? The NRA. So I know that we've had a conversation before in times past about, being able to carry legally. This young man was carrying legally. It was holstered, and yet he still lost his life. So the question is it really about the Second Amendment, or is it anybody who is protesting against what the Trump administration is trying to put forth?
I want to ask this question, and I don't know if you know, and I don't know, and I do apologize for me not knowing this, but what is the laws in Minneapolis as far as, is it open carry? Is it concealed? What are the laws around?
It is, I know for sure it is concealed carry. I don't know if it's open like in other states.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting enough, what I would say with this, because I've seen the videos, and in the videos it was showing where, and I'll tell you this, I got to see I need to see, not I got to see like I actually saw it, but I need to see the real footage of it, because I believe a lot of times things get doctored from any side, to be honest. Some saying that he was just holding the phone. Some people said they saw the officer already disarm him. Some saying that he was going to pull for the officer's gun. And I've never been in that level of an altercation, but I would say this, I have been in situations, not altercations, I don't want y'all to twist this up, in situations with law enforcement where when it is in that moment, everybody has adrenaline, everybody has an emotion at that time. Sometimes you don't know where your hand's going, your body's going, how you're doing. You feel overwhelmed, you feel frightened, you don't know. All you can do is think through your head, oh, am I gonna be another one this has happened to me? And so I said all that to say this, is that when we talk about the Second Amendment, I believe it was Charlie Kirk that actually said that the Second Amendment was more about protecting ourselves against a tyrannical government versus protecting ourselves or using it for hunting. Now, people try to twist that and say, now that was what he said during the time, I think it was Obama, Biden era or whatever, but it goes back to which I still think it needs to apply today, is that, we have a government, and whether it's a Republican in office or a Democrat in office, we have to have safeguards in place that protect the citizens that make the government even function. If it wasn't for the U.S. citizens that we have that are the voters, there would be some of these people would never be in office. And that's where I stand with the Second Amendment, is that we have it as a tool to be able to be protective of it. It should never be infringed upon, and it should never be used as a weapon or thrown back in a person's face that feels like they have the right to protect themselves in situations like this. I know that when I've been to protests locally, that I was also carrying, because at that time it was concealed, but I was carrying because you just don't know what's going to happen when you're out there, and if someone happens to become your enemy at that moment. So unfortunately, you don't have the firepower as the law enforcement do when they feel like they're at threat. And that will go back, I'll turn that back to you, to what degree when you say, where we say this was enough, like, okay, did he do something that triggered them to say, we're no longer safe, this is no longer just a citizen carrying a gun, and we feel like we need to respond by protecting ourselves? Well,
first of all, Alex shouldn't be dead. Period. There's no discussion about that. He shouldn't have lost his life. He was actually there protecting, how he got into that scuffle, he was protecting two other women that were being pushed. What was that?
They were pushed, right?
Yeah, they were pushed by one of the ICE agents. He got in between the ICE agent and one of the ladies, and then he was pepper sprayed as he's holding up one hand and then the other hand had his phone. It wasn't until he was on the ground and handcuffed did the officers find his holstered gun. He then pulled the gun away, he meaning one of the ICE agents, pulled the gun away, and then as the officer was walking away, he was then shot over 10 times. So I am curious to know, or curious to see how this will play out in the courts, because I do believe it will go to court. Although the Trump administration is trying to defraud what the American people saw on those various, the footage. So there's different video angles that you can see, and from different news outlets. So it's not just one source that's reporting this. Everyone is seeing the same thing. And so they're doing it frame by frame, and you can see Alex not being a threat to law enforcement. And they're not even law enforcement, technically, they're ICE agents. And so Gestapo. But he shouldn't be dead. Neither should Renee.
Right. I know. Well, yes. But I would say this, that Republican leadership is also speaking up at this case. It's not just, like and for those listeners, it's not just like a leftist thing. It's not like, radical leftists out there saying, oh, he should, Republicans also saying we do need to now, something needs to be looked, there needs to be some kind of investigation to this. And I want this to be very clear. I am a person that believes that ICE has a position to do what they need to do.
Sure.
However, I would say that you guys remember that these are not like trained like robots or trained. These are individuals that move off of sometimes their emotion, sometimes what they're seeing. So you always remember that anybody, whether it's us, even if I carry a gun, you don't know my mind or what goes on at that moment that can stem these, cause these things to go off. So just keep that in mind, that these people are they're not without having flaws or things that they may need to be properly trained in.
I don't think that's the argument. I think everyone, at the end of the day, they want to go home to their families, right? So like to your point, everyone has adrenaline. Everyone is in the state of fight or flight. generally when your adrenaline is that high. But if Kristi Noem is saying that they were all trained and that these people that they're bringing on to this agency are trained, then they should know how to respond to someone who is lawfully carrying at that time. Even if they don't know if that person is lawfully carrying, there should be a way for them to retrieve the gun and still detain someone without having to kill them while they are being detained.
Well, I can say that's not always true. I work with some of these youth, and I cringe sometimes when I see how law enforcement responds, because they are not properly trained in mental health crisis.
That is true.
They're not properly trained with sex trafficking victims. They're not, properly trained with youth that are having psychosis. So, I think that, and when you bring that up, because I brought this up one time at a forum, and the officer was just like combative with me, but I said, I'm not saying that you're not doing your job, but what I'm saying is, it's like how, and he was like, well, that's up to the people. We have resources. You need to come to the class. But okay, but if you need more resources, then we need to focus on the resources to get you guys trained, because we should not be seeing that. So
I agree.
Midterm elections and ICE. So we're going to continue on. So over the weekend, Pam Bondi sent an email to Governor Tim Walz stating that ICE will leave the state of Minnesota if he hands over the voter roll.
Yeah.
Woo.
Woo is right.
So
this boils down to
the election.
The election.
Okay.
Is that strange? Is that like far-fetched for you to believe?
No, not really.
Oh. And
the reason I would say that is now whether this is actually that's happening, but just as far as the tactics that are used sometimes in election times, I mean it's all out. It's like it's every man for themselves.
That is just so odd, and I think mainly because Minnesota has been a swing state for a couple of cycles, right? I think in the last election, it was a swing state where it could have gone either way. And he is putting so much effort into making sure that he still has some type of control for Minnesota, even though Governor Walz is Democrat, right? He is trying everything that he can to either get him removed or to ensure that he has the votes that he needs come November. And so it's scary if he is willing to go to this extent to ensure that you have the votes versus letting the country decide if you are the right person for the job.
You know what Minnesota needs?
Please.
A Rose Nyland. Thank you for being a friend. Because travel down the road and back again. But all jokes aside, we should not be seeing, and this I think goes back to last week we discussed about the pay to play. Yeah.
Oh, pay to play. Yes.
And so in this type of situation, it's the same. And this is why I want to say, and this is for any party at all, that when it comes down to it, we need to just really focus on if we're really who we say we are in it. Let's go out and just win. If we can't win, we re-strategize and do. But we have to remove all of the tactics, all of the money that is used behind the scenes, all of the political strong arm that is used to be able to get people to do what we want to do. At the end of the day, people want real representation. And right now, some people are getting selected and not getting elected. And that's where I think we need to, start saying, let's put all this, because that's what's dividing us. All of this that's happening in our country is all at the root of it is all about politics and who is going to have control and power. And it's not control and power to do right. It's control and power over people, period.
Yeah.
And I just had to say that. I had to let it.
That is true. I would have to agree with you, ironically, on a Monday. I don't know what's happening. Did you put some in my tea? I don't know what's happening.
Travel down the road, and we're back again. So, and this is, as you can see, y'all, the theme for today. There's a country that is addicted to outrage. America is angry about everything. Every week there's a new headline, a new fight, and a new reason to choose a side. But what if outrage isn't just a reaction anymore? What if it becomes an addiction? Social media rewards it, politicians profit from it, media feeds it, and the public lives in it. The question tonight is whether outrage is driving change or driving the country into absolute chaos. And I would say it's driving into chaos. There is... someone called me today. I forgot who. Oh, it was my best friend. He called me. Just got back off a cruise, so he had not seen anything that went on for about 4 or 5 days. So he said he turned on his phone. He messaged me to let me know he was getting ready to dock, and he said he just happened to click on Facebook and he said, Willie, everybody is so angry. He said it's just like everybody is fighting against each other. He said, I think my New Year's resolution now on, from February on, is not to get on social media. He said it's like everyone is so just against each other, and I'm gonna tell you this. I posted something yesterday, Shakir, and to me it was very clear what I posted. But if you don't say the exact thing that certain people want you to say, even if they within your party, they will find a way to make that into an argument and to be angry and to say, oh, you're not for the people that stand for this. And I feel like how do we get here in this country where opinions and our real First Amendment, absolutely, like it doesn't really matter anymore. It's like you made me angry because I don't agree with the fact that you don't like chocolate chip cookies today. So that's where we are in the country.
Well, I love chocolate chip cookies.
I do too.
And so there's that. But I do believe the world is in a very chaotic place right now. And you opened up with something about every week there's something new. And I would agree, something is happening it's a new low every week. So last week, it was a 5-year-old boy who was detained because his parents, who were trying to do the right thing by coming to this country and seeking asylum, was, following the process, but was still detained. So that was last week, right? The week prior was Renee Good. So 17 days have passed, and there's been something in the news cycle every week that is causing people to have an emotional response. And I would agree with your best friend who said that maybe his resolution is to not be on social media. Taking a hiatus from social media would probably do a lot of us some good. However, that is how we're getting a lot of our news nowadays. Traditional news is changing, and you're getting a lot of people's reactions and opinions. But then if we took away social media, we wouldn't have the footage that we have of some of these encounters now. So Renee Good's death, we saw firsthand because of a bystander, and the same thing with Alex. So if you do take away social media, you're taking away a part of that First Amendment right of, freedom of speech, and the power to actually document and keep history, right? Or store history and make sure that you have some type of recollection of what happened so that we don't repeat that in years to come. So it's a lot to be angry about. And I'm just really curious to see how the NRA will continue to be on the right side of justice, right? In the sense of they had one of their own who was murdered in broad daylight. How would they respond? I know they put out a tweet or something like that, or an X, comment about it. But I'm really curious to see, what does lobbying look like now that that amendment was infringed upon?
Well, the NRA has been compromised for some time, though. So I am personally with GOA, which is Gun Owners of America.
Okay.
Now that is nowhere, no plug, no nothing like that. No. But I would say that a lot of these membership-based organizations that are there to safeguard, it'll be interesting because it is a political time and people have to stay within a lane. That's what makes me angry. Speaking about anger, is that everyone has everything to say all of 2025. 2020, the end of 2025 now, everyone is, it's like, it's politically, grounded in what narrative they want to paint so that they are in a safe space. So that's kind of where I'm like, when do we have the backbone to talk about all that matters to Americans, not just what we want to pull out to make a particular point at that time. I
would agree. And I think for the last 2 weeks, we've seen both sides of the aisle of people storming the streets of Minnesota. They had this huge rally a couple of days ago, and thousands of people came out to protest against ICE in the direction that the United States is going in. And so my anger or my disposition about this is, it took for 2 white people, I'm just going to lay it plain, it took for 2 white people for all sides of the aisle now to say there is a real problem, when we've had black bodies in the street for this same very cause. And just down the street from Renee Good and from Alex, there was George Floyd. They had different circumstances for their killings, but nevertheless, there was a body, right? And so it's not just about Black Lives Matter. Yes, that is very true. I'm still pro-Black, don't get that twisted. But now we're seeing a different shift in people's interest because the last 2 deaths were of Caucasian Americans. And so the question is, will this continue? Will we see this same type of unity from other people who typically don't side with the protesting and all of the rah-rah-rahs? Or will this die down until the next person or the next body is lying in the street?
That's interesting. I think we're going to see a decline in a lot of protesting pretty soon. Now, for this past weekend, I was at a protest or a rally, and it was interesting because I've been doing this for about the last 5 years, faithfully going out there every year at the same time. You know, nice sized crowd this time, go out there. By the time that I was pulling up, there was like 4 or 5 police officers that was out there. And I guess because I was dressed up, they came to me, was like, hey, who's in charge? And I told them who the person was that was in charge. And I overheard them saying, you know, like, hey, you know, we're just trying to make sure you didn't get in like, you know, message on Facebook or nothing like that. And it's interesting to me that this is where we are. Like, you know, we've done this for like the last, you know, 5 years where not one time have they come out to make sure anything's happened. But now because of the escalation of things that are happening in our country, it's like now our resources are having to be pulled to places like this where you should just be able to peacefully disagree in a manner that does not result in, you know, and I told this because someone asked me this on my Facebook, was like, are you for protest? I'm like, I'm for anyone that wants to express their First Amendment right and doing it in a respectful manner where you're not, 1, going on people's private property, 2, you're not inciting violence or causing any harm or danger to anyone whatsoever. And so I said all to say that that's why I think there's going to be a decline, because now people are like, if I got to come out and I got to be surrounded by this police officer, me simply just holding up a sign, you know, that is it really worth? And that's where I think that we're going to end up seeing people feel like they're being silenced. And then what you're going to have after that is those who are on the other side who is like, the hell with all that. I'm coming out here. I'm going to show you who I am. And then you're going to get the real violent ones because they don't want to feel like they're silenced.
You are actually right about that. You will get the opposite effect if you continue to censor people.
Right.
People are feeling like they are being censored and controlled.
Right.
And we are living in the great free state or this free country that we've been taught that is free, but we're starting to see that freedom only pertains to a certain group of people. And now that everyone from all walks of life or faiths are starting to take to the street, it is starting to intimidate those who are in power because they're like, well, oh, okay, so we actually are pissing these people off, and maybe we need to do something. So we'll see.
We shall see.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, we're going to wrap it up today. Black candidates and politicians are often faced with the stigma of being polarizing or unfit. So let's dive into it.
Well, the first person for me that comes to mind is Jasmine Crockett, Congressman Crockett. A lot of people are painting her as a polarizing candidate because she is very expressive. Some people have even deemed her as being ghetto.
Yes.
Or loud and unruly, right? But we don't get that same type of depiction when there is a white male who is running for office and they may be extremely unfit or unqualified. So what are your thoughts on that?
Now, as a person who is black and has been a candidate, I can tell you I get the same thing on the Republican side because what they use is you're not polished. And that's because I'm a lot louder. That's because I'm not doing it the way where I'm out there, you know, the way they want it to be said or, you know, in a calm manner and whatever. And so I do think there is an issue that's there. I do think the problem is that people do not like as much expression. Now with Congressman Crockett, I just do not like her. But I would say that I do see where there is a difference with that.
But it's not even just about her, right? There's even Claudine Gay. She was the president of Harvard. She was deemed as polarizing because of how she's leading the school. And that's a whole nother conversation that we can talk about another time. But it's just really interesting to me how that is only tied to black candidates, that we're polarizing because we are expressive, or to your point, that you are very vulgar and very, you know, vocal about your stance.
Well, we're going to finish this tomorrow for sure.
We shall. We are definitely going to finish this tomorrow. Happy Monday, everyone. I'm Shakia Hinton.
And I'm Willie Montague.
And this is Americana. We'll see you guys here right same time, same place on Americana. Have a good night.